Hello everybody to the session today. Today we are adding an embedded component based on extension fields in this SAP Cloud Application Studio. Let's get started. I have already opened the Cloud Application Studio and I have created a customer extension because I want to extend the account object, which is based on the customer with two extension fields. The next step I do is I am adding an embedded component. I name it my Facet. And I directly double click on it so it opens in the UI designer. Here we have an empty facet, and the first thing we do is we add the fields from the business object browser. If you don't have the business object browser down here, you can find it in the View menu. And here we see currently no extension fields, no fields at all are available because we need to move to the right namespace and bind it to the right business object. So the business partner is in Business Partner Global, and we have extended the customer. And once the customer has loaded, we can see we have extended the common node. And we can access the fields here in the current common. Actually, current common goes on the same node, but this is a one-to-n association, this is a one-to-one association, and therefore we can find our extension fields here and just drag them on the screen. So this is the first part, and the next part is enabling the facet with an import that takes the account ID in order to read the current instance. So as a prerequisite, we adapt our data model with a data structure and an import field. This is now the field where we take the account ID from the host screen, so from the thing inspector screen later on from the account. And we also need the internal ID because we want to read the current instance with this. It's the internal ID is the account ID. So this is the bound field. Okay, let's move to the controller and add an import here. Account ID, it must be account ID in that case to be iPad compatible. And I bind this against my import account ID. The next step is I move to the properties. These are the properties from the import here. And I set request fire on initialization to true in order to make this import, once it gets filled and initialized, fire this event. And now I create this event. And the only thing this event should do is reading the current instance of the account. This is a business object operation and of type read. The parameter here is not important. Important is to switch the type to alternative key and to bind the import account ID, so the one that comes from the outside, to the internal ID, which is bound to the data model alternative key we want to read. So now we have created the operation. Duplicate names not allowed. Why do we have duplicate names? Save and activate. And in the designer, just for debug reasons, so we know what's going on here, we add in the data model the account ID from the outside which is the import account ID. And we add the internal ID, which is the custom ID. Okay, we leave it as it is. Save and activate. And this is pretty much everything we need to do in the embedded component. So I close this, and now I enhance this. I use the enhance screen option on the business object extension in order to enhance the account TI screen. Okay. Double click on it. It will load. Will take a bit as this screen is very big. I can use the time to explain some of the limitations here. If you use this approach with extension fields on a facet, you are limited to the possibilities of extensions, which means no additional nodes, no actions, but you have freedom on the facet itself. So the possibilities you have on an own facet compared to just adding extension fields on the header list is, for example, you can use dependent drop-down boxes and tables and more complex visualizations. Okay, now the account screen loaded. And we cannot edit anything in here because it's a standard screen, so we have a different behavior here. So we move to the Extensibility Explorer. Same story here. If it's not in this area, you can find it in the View menu. And we need the undefined section. The undefined section in the account refers to the facet list. And this is the place where we want to add our embedded component. I'm using capital letters in order to be compliant to the standard ones. And I drill down here to my embedded component. It will show up here. And I hit bind to connect the public output EC customer root. EC is for embedded component, and to bind the account ID to the account ID. Hint here, that's why account ID must be written in the output with exactly the same name as in the import. It will work with different names on the web. It will not work on the iPad. Therefore, as a best practice, always use the same name. OK, apply, OK, and save and activate. And if we have done everything correctly, this will work. I've opened the system here with my accounts. I have to wait until this is active. Now it's active, and I open an account. This will take a while as the account now notices that there's a different tab and reloads all the cached XMLs in the background. So that was the reload, and here it is. We now can see the new facet, and if I navigate to it, I can see the import got filled, the customer ID got read. So we have now the right instance, and now I can enter data here and I can save. And once I come back to my green upgrader account, the same instance gets picked up and the data got persisted. The most common pitfalls actually here are indeed the account ID with a different name, which will not work on the iPad. Another pitfall is, let's open the embedded component again. Another pitfall is in here. In the event. So if you don't use the alternative key in here, it will not work. And remember first the import ID and then the business object ID. Otherwise it will not work. So if you exchange those two fields, it will not work. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye and see you next time.